Hello, this is Andrew Jobling, the accidental author. Great to be here and great to be with Clint Hatton. Hello, Clint. How are you, mate?
Andrew, I'm doing well, man. Good to talk to you again.
Oh, it's always good to chat, mate. You are an inspiring individual for sure.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, man.
Hopefully, people watching this have hopefully they've listened to the podcast you and I just did very recently as we're releasing this, called Big Bold Brave. And if they have, they will know a bit about you already, and they will know you're a pretty amazing guy. Um, and you've just also launched this week your first
Yeah, I
book,
did.
Bold Brave, which is amazing. So congrats, mate.
Well, thank you. I just want to say too, because I went back and listened to our episode, and if your listeners have not yet, they do need to go to it. And not just because of my story, but you, Andrew, had some great questions and some really powerful insight too. So I think, just between how our conversation went down, the listeners are going to get a lot of value out of that. So I've been pushing it as well.
Yeah, no, it is. It was a wonderful conversation for sure, mate. And for the people that haven't heard it, um, I mean, obviously there's a reason for Big Bold Brave. So without going into too much depth, mate, and
Yeah.
and apologies for asking you to have to go again into this story because it, it's a heartbreaking story. But if you wouldn't mind just giving people a little bit of context for Big Bold Brave, and then we'll talk more about the process of writing your book and what the plans are.
Sure, sure. I'd be glad to. So, my oldest son, I'm a father of three sons. I've been married almost 20 years this next month. And my oldest son, Gabriel, became a pilot at only 16 years old. He soloed before he got his driver's license, which was crazy. He got his license at 17, as early as he could. And he was on his way of living his dream. And on September 23rd of 2019, after dropping a friend off, just trying to get some hours, Andrew, he ran to an unexpected weather system, suffered from what they call spatial disorientation, and he crashed and lost his life. And so, as you can imagine, it was a devastating blow to me and my bride and his two younger brothers. And so, we started this very unwanted new journey of living life without him. And Big Bull Brave came into it the morning after he passed. We were faced with the television station here, NBC, wanting to do a story, which was kind of a shocking ask, in that delicate morning.
Yep.
But the way the reporter framed it to me was, if we just report on what happened, it's just going to be a report about his death. If you'll tell the story, we can talk about his life. And that meant the world to me. So we did that. And in that interview, at some point, I said he lived his life big, bold, brave. That's still kind of a big blur. But later on, when she aired this segment, she actually did a beautiful 3-minute segment on his life. And at the very end of it, said we encouraged him or people to live like Gabriel, big, bold, and brave. And so that was kind of the genesis. But initially, it was just really language for us, Andrew. Just to have some sort of a compass. It was a family mantra. But after, probably amounted to several months, maybe a year, I knew I wanted to launch out in some bold and courageous things, do some things myself that I felt like I was a coward in parts of my life that I hadn't done yet. And so when I started my personal development company, which was one of those things, the second one was writing the book, which I know we're going to talk about. I knew I wanted to do something that for me was big, bold, brave. So that name just kind of made sense.
Oh, and it does make absolute sense, mate. And uh, look, again, my heart goes to you and your family for your tragic loss. But
Thank
again,
you.
I think one of the things you wrote in your book was, out of pain comes purpose. And
Yeah.
clearly, you have used that incredible pain now as a purpose to not just, I guess, first step was to pick your family up and set the compass for your family to live like Gabriel lived, which was big, bold, brave. Um,
Yep.
and now you can inspire and help other people do the same thing. And mate, just so you know, since our podcast, I think I mentioned while we were chatting, I was getting a bit uncomfortable and thinking about some things in my life where I needed to be braver. And so that, I've been doing some things over the last week or so that scared the poop out of me.
Awesome.
But you've inspired that. So this is where I want to go with this, mate, because a lot of people watching this, they're at some point of their author journey. They're
Yeah.
either right at the beginning, fearful of can I do it? Who's going to read my book? Will it get published? Is it going to sell? We've got people that are sort of halfway through and questioning it. Is this any good? Like, and these are conversations I have every single day with people. I've got people that have finished the manuscript and wondering, what do I do now? How do I publish it? Do I self-publish it, or do I find a publisher? Am I good enough to find a publisher? What if they reject me? Then people that have published a book, it's like, well, what if no one reads it? How do I sell it? It's scary to ring up, radio stations and go to bookshops. What if they say no? Blah, 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 blah. So all of us at some point in this journey, and I put my hand up for that as well, there's fear. There's no doubt there's
Yeah.
fear of rejection. There's fear of, am I good enough? There's fear of, will it work? So we need an injection of big, bold, brave, mate. That's why you're here, to just get us back up. If we're, some people watching this might be in a flat spot and just need to hear something that inspires them. So, I mean, it must have been for you, mate. It took Big Bold Brave to write a book about this. Tell us about how you actually got into that mindset to write the book.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think I experienced, that was a long list, but you were dead right on every single one of them. And I'm pretty sure I experienced every single one of those. Because really I'll back up just a little bit before Big Bull Brave, because it wasn't like I'd never thought about writing a book before Gabriel's accident. I really did have it on my heart. I knew someday I wanted to write a book. I had many people that have just kind of tracked, the things I did in the past and always asked me, when are you going to write a book? But it really was, Andrew, a couple of the fears you described. A part of it for me was just the what ifs. You said what if, right? There was a lot of what ifs, and what ifs will cripple you. And so I got stuck just like everybody else with, well, what if nobody wants to read it? Does the world even need another book? I mean, I remember saying that to myself, what
Who
if
hasn't said
I
that?
can't do it? Yeah, what if I just physically can't write it? What if I just can't finish one? All those things. So there were some very, I still call those unnatural fears. In my life, I delineate between what's a natural fear and an unnatural fear. To me, a natural fear is that fight or flight mechanism that's built into us that is, identifies an immediate threat,
Yeah.
and gets us out of it. That's a very natural
If
fear.
you're
That's a
attacked
good
by
fear.
a grizzly bear, that's a good fear.
Exactly.
One fear. Yeah.
It's a great fear. Exactly. And then there's the unnatural fears, which are all the what ifs of life, right? And so I suffered from all of those. I think one of the things that I would really like to encourage authors in is, first of all, I sincerely believe that everybody's story matters. I really wholeheartedly believe that. And I think everybody has something within their story that is going to touch and change the life and inspire decision to actually write the book. And we'll just fast forward to that for 1 second. The guy, Howard Behar, who's the former president of Starbucks International, obviously built a massive business. He's the one who was kind of that last shove. And what he told me was, I don't want you to write this to become a bestseller. I don't want you to write this to make a bunch of money. I want you, when you sit down to write this, to think about, can I help one person?
Yeah.
And that's what I did. That's the way I wrote the book. And so I want to encourage every author out there, whatever stage you're in, is just focus on that. Focus on knowing that your story matters and that you're going to write this. And if it only helps one person, that's good enough. Now, it's going to help way more than that. You're going to touch way more people than that, but write it for the one. So that was, one thing early on. But ultimately, I think what led me to go ahead and finally do it was twofold. Obviously, there is the story that your listeners just heard a little bit about. And of course, they can go to the podcast we did before and get the whole story. So I was motivated to help people who had suffered a major loss, not necessarily of a child, but just a major loss. The second piece for me was the way our world was turned upside down 3 months after Gabriel passed away, because that's when COVID hit. And so I just felt like the timing was right, and that I need to get over my fear. I need to quit being a coward, because I feel like that's what it is. I think when your story matters and you've got something inside of you that can help even that one person, and you're not willing to put it to paper and then put it out, then you're a coward. And so I was a coward. And it just pushed me to say, man, if I can help even one person unearth from all of the fear that's been unleashed on this planet and to give them hope and to inspire them to live their life, then it's going to be worth it. Let's do this.
Mate, honestly, I don't think there's much more to say. I mean, it's so true. And you said in the podcast, yeah, I'm a coward, and they're fighting words. And it's hard to face the fact that you're a coward. And I think we're all cowardly in certain areas of our life. I think every
Yeah.
one of us are. And I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of, but I certainly think it's something to not accept. Because as you said, if what I know and what I can do and what I put out there is going to have a positive impact on this world, then it's not just nice to do, it's my responsibility to do that. Because this is,
Yeah.
see, I believe in, and I know, I'm sure you do as well, we're not here by accident. Everyone's here for a
No.
purpose, and everyone's here to leave a legacy. Everyone's here to have an impact on this world in our own individual way. So therefore, our existence makes us responsible for sharing the message that will have that impact. Now, that's putting responsibility, that's maybe putting pressure on people. But yeah, I think when you know that your life has meaning, you know, then you're more maybe that can build some more courage within you to, okay, well, I'm here to do this, so I can't just sit back and put it off any longer. I've got to get up and I've got to get over this cowardice and I've got to get into action. And I think that's a powerful concept.
Yeah, I would even add this to the, maybe for you it's not, I'm going to write it for the one person. Maybe it is, you're just writing it with the idea that it's a legacy for your family and your children. If that's the case, or maybe it's just, some friends or whatever. There's different ways for you to, determine your personal motivation, what's going to get you energized enough to actually follow through. But I think, you can do it. And ultimately, you and I talked about this, I think, on the podcast too, or if not, it was off camera. Your why really matters. You have to know why you're doing it. What's the ultimate message you want to receive, people to receive? For me, when I wrote my book, this is only the first one. I know I'm going to write more, but I wanted, and it's my tagline now, I wanted to meet and encourage courageous humans, because I think everyone is, that would want to become people who live inspiring lives. I knew that was what I wanted to get across. And so, that's the key. That's the key. You got to know, what's your why?
Yeah.
Why are you even doing it? And if you can do that, then it's just time to put your money where your mouth is and get over the fear that's keeping you back.
Do you know the fear? It's funny, isn't it? Because fear's doubt, right? It's just doubt. That's all it is. It's when we're living double-minded, or when we're uncertain about the why. When we are certain about the why, I don't know if fear is even a challenge anymore, because when you've fixed your mind or your goal or your desire on achieving something, all of a sudden, all those things that created fear in the first place are no longer there. All of a sudden, all you see is holding that book in your hands. All you see is maybe for some people, they're writing it for themselves. Maybe it's for their own healing.
Yeah,
Might be it.
absolutely.
Maybe no one ever reads it, and that's okay too. Whatever it is, I think when you lock onto it, the fear's not an issue anymore. You just go, because in your heart and in your head and in your mind, that's going to be a done deal. I'll just do what I have to do, and if people don't like it, that's their problem.
Tough luck. Yeah.
If a publisher rejects it, they lose. I'll find one that will love it. If a radio station won't do an interview with me, they miss out. I'll find one that will. And it's interesting when you have that laser focus on that desire and what you're trying to achieve. None of that stuff matters anymore. The fears, the worries, the doubts, the concerns, the insecurities, they just melt away, because nothing's going to stop you. And we've all done it in our lives. Every one of us has done it with something. Fear, were you scared? No, because all I was focused on was what I had to get done. I didn't have time for fear. I mean, how many stories do you hear about, you know, single parents that find themselves alone after abuse and with no money, and they've
Right.
got 3 kids,
Yeah.
and they survive. Well, how did you survive? Well, I had to. I had to. Were you scared? I didn't have time to be scared. I just had to
That's exactly right.
find a
Yeah.
roof. I had to get money. I had to look after my kids. I had to protect them. You don't have time for fear. Fear is a waste of our time, a waste of our mental energy. Focus on what you want. Fear disappears. You live big, bold, brave.
Yeah, no, dead on. You talking about that reminded me of, and I can't believe I can't think of the author's name, but the book The Shack, which
Yeah,
was a massive success, right? The movie, the whole 9 yards. And for your listeners who may not know his backstory, he did exactly what you just described. He wrote it just for himself and his own family. That was it. He never thought in a million years he would sell 10 copies. And of course, we know where that went. And so I don't share that, that our goal should all be, hey, we got to sell as many books as the Shack guy. But the point is what you made is he found just enough of a why to execute on it. And it ended up literally impacting millions of people.
yeah. Well, mate, I think we've covered the point. I think it's been very powerful. Find your why is obviously, and I talk to people about that, and they know that. But we need reminding all the time, and just focus and just move forward, and all that other stuff that's the peripheral. I mean, the fear stuff it's just, as you said, unnatural fear. It's manifestations of our imagination. That's all it is.
Yep.
It's just our imagination. That's all it is. Now, the fear's real, but the creation of the fear is not based on anything that's really. It's not a bear. It's not a bear. It's not a lion. It's not a. It's
That's
not a.
right.
You're not being attacked by a gang of bikers. Um, your life's not
No,
in danger. So,
that's
hey,
exactly right.
guys, let's just get on with this. Let's get over the cowardice and get into the courage and live big, bold, brave. So, Clint, awesome, mate. How do people buy your book? How do people check out your stuff? How do people talk to you if they want to?
Yeah, best way is to go to my website, bigboldbrave.us. I actually like to say .us. And if they go there right now, they can find the book, of course. Now, a lot of the listeners are outside the United States, of course. So they'll want to go everywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, whatever your online retailer of choice is, because of the shipping. But I'd still love for them to go to my website, subscribe. I'm starting a weekly, I actually started last Friday, a weekly newsletter that's just once a week. I hate clutter, and it's not going to be this long 8-page email. It's just going to be short, free coaching tips and things that I think will bring value to their lives. So I'd love it if they did that.
Well, that's awesome, mate. I mean, no one's going to read 8 pages anyway, so there's no point putting 8 pages out there. So, but
That's right.
mate, that's great. Thank you so much for your time, mate. And I know this is the first of many, many books, and what you're doing is inspiring and amazing. And Gabriel's legacy is going to live on for many generations to come and inspire many people. So, Clint, thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. It was a pleasure once again.